You and Chris are going to be in here talking about God knows what.
Welcome to our time machine, children.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Retro Show. We found Peepaw, and we brought him back in.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, Peepaw. I was doing the white boy overbite during that intro.
Yeah. Folks, the Retro Show, in case you didn't know, is
An homage
to growing up in the 70s and 80s, much like Chris and I did. And we are so proud to have with us today, ladies and gentlemen, he is
Chris Curtis. Woo!
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, baby, I'm
That's
here.
right. Ladies and gentlemen, the canned audience loves him. They just can't get enough of him.
Girl is back. She's back. What's up, baby?
Standing ovation.
Standing
Hey, did you notice she's wearing like a thigh-high skirt?
You had to be there. Folks, our guest today, sitting with us at the Palatial Podcast Studios, is Mr. Craig O'Neill. And
He's a legend, baby.
Super
He's a
boomer.
legend.
now, for those of
He's a
you
legend.
guys... Yeah. Oh, he just pushes buttons sometimes.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So we have Craig here today because we're going to be talking about radio and what radio and media in general was like in the 70s and 80s. Because if you guys don't know, it was a different animal than what we have today.
Absolutely.
And just to let you know his... because, like I said, this is a nationwide podcast. Craig actually is well known in the Little Rock, Arkansas market as being one of the most famous disc jockeys to ever grace the airwaves.
You mean to tell me there are people listening that don't know who I am?
That's right. But they will by the end of this.
I'm Craig O'Neill.
He's a legend. He is a legend.
I'll
for
be
sure.
glad to tell you people who I am. I'm the best undiscovered talent you never heard of.
There you go.
Proud of it.
Well, our tens of listeners are going to appreciate
Yes, they're going to agree with you. So, so because Craig's background in radio, and I mean, I'm telling you guys, this guy tore up the ratings back in the day. Back in the
We grew
day.
up with this dude. I mean, literally didn't know him, but he was in our ear all the time.
He was in our ear all the time. Yep. And so the first thing I want to tell you guys, we need to thank our producers before we do anything else. Okay. So we're going to go away. We're going to talk to our we're going to tell our producers thank you. It'd be nice if I could talk, wouldn't it?
It sure would.
It'd be great.
It's always editing.
Save you on editing.
Save me a lot of time on editing.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, we're going to take a break. We're going to thank our producers. And if you'd like to be a producer on here, you can go to retroshow.net and find out how you can be a show producer for a mere $3 a month. Chris, for $3 a month. Come on.
$3.
Yeah, Craig, this is how we make tens of dollars. By the
Really?
way. Yes. We have people who
notes.
actually, take some
Oh, no,
notes.
we're not making money. We're just trying to pay for all this equipment.
Yeah, we have to pay for the gear. Those monthly, it's not really ours until it's paid off. You know how that goes. Anyway, we're going to come right back, right here on The Retro Show.
These are the wonderful people who support The Retro Show with a monthly contribution of $3. LNC Corporation, Roger McDougall, Melinda Hignite, Dusty Breeze, Kevin Goff, Norton, Crispy, Nancy Schwartz, Joshua Ramsey, Fran Adams, EM, Bradford Mason, Tonya Highland. Thank you to all of our fantastic supporters. Find out how you can support the podcast by heading to retroshow.net. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Retro Show. Once again, they want to be a producer.
Can I say something real quick?
You can say something real quick.
I cut you off earlier. You were going to introduce Craig. I'm sorry for that, Craig. I was just being funny. But, guys, Craig O'Neill.
Thank
you. Ladies and gentlemen,
you.
Craig O'Neill.
Audience is a little slow.
Yeah, they're a little
Sorry,
slow.
you folks a little bit slow on the take up there, so.
All right, let me...
Excuse me, are those the only 2 buttons there are?
No,
far as you know.
there's the theme show open and close buttons
okay.
too.
All right.
So that's it. Yeah, there's 4 buttons on there.
See, that's why you want to be a producer.
That's why you want to be a
Going for
producer.
5 buttons.
We need 6 buttons.
We need
actually.
6 buttons.
Good laugh.
We need a good laugh track is what we need to make us funnier.
Here's how I would get that when I was in radio. Back when we rolled tape,
Yes.
we would get people into the control or into the production room who were doing their own commercials, and I would intentionally say something to try and get them to give me a good, honest laugh as the tape was rolling. I got a ton of them and used them on radio in my morning show, late 70s.
You mix them all together?
The 80s and through the 90s. And whenever I tell a stupid joke, hit that laugh.
Hit that laugh track.
Now, I had a lot of buttons. I had more than 2.
Yeah, I know.
I had more buttons and better ratings.
You did.
And I was somebody. You people nationally need to know.
He had 7 buttons.
He had 7 buttons, and don't you ever forget it.
Hey, are
Yes,
we
sir.
podcasting?
Yeah, we're at the point where we're podcasting right now. Oh, I'm sorry. Chris has to get started.
That's not a button, folks.
That's another button.
Drink local.
Yeah. So, Craig, talking about radio. Now, Chris and I, when we were coming up and listening to you, we were listeners.
We were.
And so
I can tell.
Who are you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Who are you again? We found this guy walking down the street and said, "Hey, you want to do a podcast?"
We're faking you all out.
But radio back in the day each one had a different personality, which I don't think you have anymore because it's gotten corporate. Rare is the radio station that is owned locally and still has that kind of personality and
didn't you used to love to drive cross country back in the 70s and 80s, even early 90s, and listen to small market radio?
Yes.
And to see what they had and to hear what they had, to hear these wonderful voices.
You'd hit scan just to see what would come up.
To see what was out there.
And if you were on AM here, send those letters of complaint to Craig.
Glad I could be here for the last show.
Yeah. But we had, it was, each station had that personality, and a lot of it was driven by the DJs. And radio, it was a wild time to be in radio, because especially if you were at maybe not the best station in town, and you would get the guys coming through. You remember these guys? They would come through. They would be on the air for about 6 months, and then they would go away. They generally were heavy smokers and had other bad habits. But it was just a wild time to be in radio. And
So for us, I know for me and Butch growing up, Friday and Saturday nights when you could finally drive, parking lots like the local supermarkets or whatever, we would go hang out at the parking lots. Somebody always there'd be 3 or 4 cars with the windows down. Radio.
Had the radio on.
The radio on. It wasn't a tape. It wasn't a disc.
Yeah, it was radio.
It was radio. You listen to the radio and talk to the
chicks. You had the DJ. And
looking for girls with the knee-high skirts on, And
which got a lot of DJs in trouble back in the day. And there you go. That's all I got to say about that. But we had, it was just different, all these different personalities that came together to make a radio station.
And not just teenagers in cars and parking lots, but entire communities.
Absolutely, yes.
Certainly, it had a centrifugal force that brought communities together, especially small market.
Yes,
Jonesboro is where I started in 1969. And we would have you want the number 1 rated show was in 1969 on AM radio in Jonesboro. It was the Morning Herald, a 15-minute news show. The last 7 minutes, we read obituaries.
Yes, you did that in small town radio.
Read obituaries.
I did it. I did it at I just did it for fun. No, I'm sorry. But we had, it was an AM radio station.
Right. That's
and
what you did.
read obituaries at the end of the newscast.
You heard of the top 20 hits? We had the top 20 obits.
Yes, the top 20 obits,
Number 1 this week.
But that was actually providing a service.
It was.
For the community.
Oh.
Aunt Sally might not known that her, longtime friend that has her pie dish has passed.
So she's going to show up at the after the funeral to go, I'm sorry, darling, but that's my pie dish. I loaned that to her 15 years ago.
True story.
True story. But it was news coverage. It was weather coverage even back in the day because back before we had advanced warnings of tornadoes, you'd send your news guy out to go out and say.
Unfortunately, it was after the tornado.
It was usually after the tornado.
Nowadays, the technology is so good they know they're coming. But back in 1968 in Jonesboro, Arkansas, 36 people were killed.
Yeah,
because the technology didn't pick up the tornadoes like they do now.
No, not like they do now.
Exactly right. You had the news guy going out and telling us about how bad it was.
Yeah,
or is.
And I remember my first job on AM radio was 1982 and my first night was a tornado outbreak.
Wow.
And so I didn't get on the air that night. I was ripping a copy and bringing cups of coffee to the guys on the air that were covering that. And back in that time, you relied as like here and all over the country, these small stations provided that service of storm coverage or whatever local news event was happening at the time. And that's except in rare exceptions, it's gone now.
It's gone now. It's more social media. Neighborhoods now have their own websites and social media. In 1969, when I was hired in Jonesboro, Arkansas, you had what was called an AP wire machine.
AP and UPI.
And they would print out the news constantly. You didn't get it on computer. It was constantly being printed. Paper would pile up. The news director, or in our case, the station manager, would come by. And that first day that I was being toured through the station manager said, now, if the bells go off on that printer, I don't care what the story is, you rip it off and you run up to the control room, you stop whatever you're doing and read it, because that's a bulletin.
Yeah.
That's a bulletin. And the first Sunday I was by myself, boom, bells go off. My heart is racing as I rip that copy off. I run up to the control room, open the mic, and go, ladies and gentlemen, this just into the KBTM newsroom. The premier of the Congo has been assassinated. And his name was 25 inches long.
So many consonants. Many consonants.
So here's what I say. I say, name is being withheld pending notification of next of kin. They don't get that today.
That's fast thinking, man. That's fast thinking. But, to me, that's when, I'm trying to think what year that was, that a law was passed in the late 80s that allowed corporations to start buying up several of the same stations
good friend
in the
Bill
market.
Clinton here in Arkansas, folks, is the one that signed off on his FCC allowing the mergers of big-time radio stations so they could have multi-station ownership in one market. And I'm a guy in Jonesboro, Arkansas, who can make an instant $1.5 million selling my station. I can put my family up and live the high life in my little town.
Of course you're going to do it.
I'll sell you that station.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, everybody sounds the same.
Everybody sounds the same now. And I got a dear friend of mine that recently was let go from Clear Channel. He was one of my first bosses. And he was recently let go by a company. He had worked for them for, almost 30 years. And just kind of, okay, bye. And he had successfully led a group of stations there in... I'm not going to say what market. I'm going to out him on that because I don't know what kind of deal he has when he left. But, it's that kind of culture now. There's no loyalty. There never was a lot in radio. But, at least when you're working for mom and pop, there was a little bit more of that.
Well, you'd see the owner every day.
You'd see the owner every day.
And they would comment on your show.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. But exactly who that was.
But the one thing I also missed about local radio is we had a group of people that would call us every day. And I remember when I worked at the little AM radio station, it's KCON, there's a little lady named Mrs. Jordan. And Mrs. Jordan would call every single day. She would let me know how her flowers were doing. Mm-hmm. She would let us know how, what she was going to have for lunch.
Exactly.
And bless her heart, we were her friends. Mm-hmm. She saw us as her friends. And so we told people, listen, if this lady calls you, you be nice to her. Mm-hmm. Because she calls us every day. You be nice to this lady, And you may not care what she has to say, but it means the world to her. And I mean, that's what it was back then. It was the people in the community you had that
We're
connection
closer.
with. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And even when you got into larger markets at the time, you served, they felt that they knew you,
I felt like I knew him.
Yeah.
See,
I did. I mean, I didn't, but I felt like I did.
well, and working that small market station, the big benefit for the person behind the mic, you do get to know people, and when you get to the larger market, that ethic stays with you.
Yes.
And you become more human, and
Sure.
you're used to working so close to people. I was Plazo the Clown for back to school at Caraway Plaza Shopping Center in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Covered the Jonesboro Christmas Parade.
And you were you were putting grease paint on.
And then I covered the Jonesboro Christmas Parade. Did play-by-play for the Jonesboro football teams. Did the Northeast Arkansas Invitational basketball tournament. I do 4 games in one night, or afternoon and night.
Yeah.
You did absolutely everything and explored every facet of a small town's growth or culture.
And that's what's missing now. That's what's
is.
missing. It's soulless at this point. And TV was a little bit behind that. I remember up until a certain point, there was still kind of that in television now, but even that at this point has become, and listen, no offense to any of my friends that are still in television, they're still trying to do what they can to, tell you the news every day. But the leadership there has made a lot of cookie cutter decisions in that, well, that's what corporate wants us to do. Mm-hmm. And you lose that local thing that made it a local station. Because if you look at some of these stations now that are owned by the same group, their graphics are exactly the same everywhere.
We talk now in this country about how we've come apart.
Mm-hmm.
In the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you could go to the water cooler and go, hey, did you see Carson last night?
Yeah.
Or did you see Letterman last night? Or did you see, how about MASH? That was and everybody would know what you were talking about.
Yeah, because you had 3 network TVs
3
and PBS.
primary. Everybody gathered around those TV sets at night, and their choices were limited. However, people would come together around the water cooler and have a commonality of culture. Yeah. You don't have that. If I tell you what I watched on TV last night, the chances are you would have no idea what those shows were, who was in them, what they're about.
Well, it's because we don't consume it in the same way anymore. It used to be appointment television. You put your rear end in a seat to watch that show at that time.
Right.
Well, then they came out with VHS video recorders. Well, you could record it and come back, but still, for the most part, it was easier to sit down and watch it than it was to actually record it. Then they had DVRs. Oh, well, now you can record it and come back and watch it.
And now people are their own networks.
Yes.
You are the network. You're the one that puts together your primetime entertainment, not the network. And some people will say, well, yeah, but that's so cool because I have the choice now. I'm not being dictated to by a big network. That's true, but there's no commonality of culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing to draw us together.
I can bet you $10 right now we watched the same thing yesterday.
Well, I watched Texas A&M
and basketball.
Now you've just touched on the one thing that is still out there that does draw us together is sports.
Yeah.
So,
and my son, if he watches this, he'll be laughing because I'm very self-consumed with the Arkansas Razorbacks. They make me so mad. Yeah. I get so angry. But once they're done, I'm done. But March Madness is a little different. Mm-hmm. And my wife loves sports, so we're watching basketball.
And every game is a drama.
Yes.
Every game, whether you're for that team or not,
right?
Yeah.
is a Texas.
Sometimes
A&M.
I like to watch when I don't have any skin in the game because then I can just enjoy the game.
Yes, exactly.
You know. But you're right about sports. It is kind of the one glue that we kind of still have to bring everybody together.
And now that's getting tampered with because of money.
Yeah.
And it's the wild, wild west out there in college sports now because now the player is almost the one in charge of where he wants to go from year to year.
That's when my brother was a college coach. And he's out of the coaching business now because of the
NIL and the portal and all that stuff.
He said it's running college sports.
It is.
Running. I can't. I'm from Arkansas, y'all.
Ruining, yeah. Ruining, yeah.
Something has to be done, though, for compensation somewhere because a young man or woman is killing themselves to be the inventory of a network that's giving billions of dollars. So somewhere, I agree with you. NIL and portable, that's not the way it should be.
I just happened to be at a game last year, baseball game, and I ended up talking to the people that were in charge of the NIL for one of the basketball players. Uh-oh. And they let loose on how much he was getting. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Your jaw
dropped, huh?
It did.
Wow.
12 million?
No.
12 million. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So where do you draw the line, man?
Yeah.
Wow. Where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's like a lot of things where money kind of dictates where that goes. And, circling back to radio again, no, it's okay. It's fine. I love these conversations. To me, when radio started to go, it was one of the things. There were a lot of things. But when the personal computer got to where you could program an entire radio station on a computer in the corner, and you could just have people voice track, and you had software that would randomize your playlist. You could day part your songs. You could do everything, and except for have a real human being there.
Yeah, that's just not.
And even back when automation at stations, back when in the day, you still had to have someone there. You still had to have someone running the
load the tapes.
Load the tapes.
I never sat in the booth with you, but I did sit in the booth with him, and it amazed me at everything he was having to actually do with his show. You know, especially when he was in Hot Springs. I mean, KUCA was a little different.
That was a little different. That's college radio.
It was impressive to watch. I mean,
you're juggling and you're pressing buttons all over the place. You had a lot more than 4 buttons like we have here.
I just happen to know where that button is.
Yeah.
Recorded live as I signed my first contract.
Yes. Yeah. But so we're just old guys complaining about how things used to be, but it did used to be different, and I think
better.
We've definitely we've lost something.
We have. I agree.
Lost something.
Young people, you don't understand.
You just don't. You guys don't get it.
You don't get off my lawn. No.
But now what we're doing is now.
Yes, this is
making up for it.
This I will say, this opens up podcasting. When Chris and I first started talking about this show, we've been doing it almost a year. In May, it'll be a year that we started this podcast. It has scratched that itch that I have had to go back on the air because we only started doing this video part a couple of months ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Until then, it was just microphones and recording. And that to me was just,
and he's
great.
Still juggling, pushing all the buttons. I'm literally, y'all, I'm a prima donna. I walk in here, he's got show notes for me, and I'm just the face. I'm the face.
He's the face. Somebody's got to be pretty around here. And so that's why we have Debbie come in on some of the podcasts that we do.
But it's fun. We have a good time with it.
And there you go. The podcast has taken the place of the small market radio station, except I'm not trying to call y'all small market because you are that. You have
We have people from
Engulf
literally
the
all
entire
over the
country.
world who listen to this.
We've actually had people contact us from Great Britain.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Really?
Yeah, it's like
really
when
cool.
you put it out there, it's cool.
I'm sure they're over going, listen to these two accents. I can't do their accent.
Wow.
I have a question about what was your favorite, I guess, genre of music when you were a DJ?
I love soul music.
Oh,
And
wasn't that fun?
That's back in the late 60s with the arrival of the Temptations and Aretha and the Four Tops
James Brown.
and James Brown. And that was my first, when I was, okay, let me just tell you up front, everybody listening nationally, I'm a white man, but I dance black and have always been able to do that.
Yeah,
and,
he does.
Go to YouTube and look up Craig Dances on Ellen, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, don't click those other videos when you actually do that. That's bad
Don't
stuff.
go to Pass the Ammo.
Yeah.
But the point is that love that music.
Yeah.
And it still gets me. But I also...
It's great stuff.
And there were songs that I played on the air, you all, that I got tired of playing over and
Yeah. Oh, you do. Yeah.
this is recorded before the eclipse, and everybody's going to be playing Total Eclipse of the Heart. I couldn't stand that song.
Not
I didn't
everybody.
like the group Journey. And now when I hear them, I go, wow, that group's pretty good.
Yeah.
When it's a DJ, I'd turn it down and go to the phone.
Because you burned everything out. There's a lot of songs now. Like I said, I love Bob Seger. If I never hear Old Time Rock and Roll again,
So, instant rabbit hole. I've got a really good friend that I graduated. Butch is a year older than me, but my best friend in my grade that I graduated with, every weekend when we would ride around, we split Bob Seger 9 to Night. And I mean, it was a double album because it was expensive. So whoever car was in, we put that in the car, and we played all. Man, if he comes, we're going. If he comes, we're going. We're gonna go. Well, he never came.
Oh.
So it's been, I don't know how. Time gets away now. I can't remember dates and when it was, but he came to Verizon, and my wife gave me tickets for Christmas. And I said, "You're gonna love this." She said, "I'm not going. You got to find someone." Well, I just picked up a phone and called Joe. And I said, "What are you doing February, whatever?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "We're going to Bob Seger."
Oh, wow.
And it's funny you said that.
Yeah.
Because we're sitting there, and Bob, he would come out at the front stage and wrote this back in 72 and da-da-da, and then, except for one song. And he walks out to the front stage and the band goes, da-da-da-da-da-da, and that place exploded. There are two people sitting down, me and Joe, and I'm sitting there and I'm just looking around that place, and I went, this has got to be the biggest rush for any performer.
Wow, I can imagine.
The whole place exploded and went nuts.
Folks, in the 70s and 80s, I would go, as a DJ, would go out and do dances.
Yeah.
And I had what was called the killer set. It lasted 15 minutes, 4 songs in a row, when played together, put the party in the stratosphere. And when you used that at 11:45 on New Year's Eve, and it took you to New Year, party was out of control.
oh, you got it. Well, don't leave us hanging.
Always started with da na 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 na, and I'm telling you, Old Time Rock and Roll got them.
Oh yeah.
Followed it up with Moni Moni by Billy Idol.
Absolutely.
Then followed that up, Twist and Shout by the Beatles.
Yeah.
And followed that up with Shout from the movie Animal House. And when you were
The Isley
done,
Brothers. Yeah.
it wasn't the Isley
It
Brothers
wasn't the
version.
Isleys?
No, the
Yeah.
one from the movie Animal House.
Oh,
which had
that
its
one.
own
Okay.
version,
Yeah.
Which what don't it make you? And I'm telling you, by the time you were done, they're dancing on the tables.
Yeah.
But it always started with Bob Seger.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
song, it is iconic, but I'm like him. I'm just, come on, man.
I had to play it so much. I was just like, oh.
Well, not only
this
that, it
one
was
again.
in Risky Business with
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, which was a huge hit. And
And played it at the White House. You're talking to a man who was the only disc jockey to ever do a party at the White House for Bill Clinton. And played that killer set in the East Room of the White House. And the crowd, notables, press that you've seen on network TV,
Get out and just
the
boogie down.
cabinet, everybody explodes. It was fantastic.
What a rush.
Unbelievable.
What a
That is cool.
rush.
That is so cool.
But you know that you're right though. The podcast is filling that niche because now you can go out and you can find somebody like we used to do. You would hit scan, and you can kind of do the same thing. You can sample a podcast, see if you like it, put it in your favorites.
There you go.
Well, then, I mean, if you made multiple trips in the same area, you had already found that niche, and you would go, pretty soon we can pick up, such and such out of Memphis, or we can, as we're driving, you would do that, so it was cool.
Did you ever listen to see how far away you could get AM stations at night when you were?
Well, when I was a Cardinal fan, and I hated to lose them.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to hear how the ninth inning was going to go or whatever.
Right.
And sometimes I had been known to park the car, and my wife goes, "What are you doing?" I got to hear it. Gibson gets his no-hitter. You're kidding me.
So I was a Cardinals fan, and one of the reasons I loved, still am, but that I loved my job at the little AM radio, we were a Cardinals affiliate.
Yeah, we were too.
And so I would just like, I told them, if there's a night game, schedule me.
Exactly.
Because I will go run Cardinals game. And I will run that. And so you had Mike Shannon and Jack Buck, just iconic.
And I had Harry Carey.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Back then.
The late Harry Carey
Yeah.
started with St. Louis. And then
he went to Chicago.
Went to Chicago, got into it a little bit, got a little bit of trouble in St. Louis, and went to Chicago. Hello, everybody. Let me hear ya.
Of all the skits I've seen you do, I don't think anything that you've ever done will top Will Ferrell doing.
Oh, man.
Harry Carey on Saturday Night Live. That was one of the most.
If you were a hot dog, would you eat yourself? I would. Yeah, that
I'd smear myself with brown mustard and I'd eat myself all day long.
Hey.
Yeah.
He had those
Mr. Kepsar really knows how to hit that fastball.
Oh, perfect. It's because WGN was all over the country.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can listen to that.
And once again, there you go, drawing people together. There was a commonality. Now, Saturday Night Live will have a guest host, and Jane and I have to Google, who is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Aquaman.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Now I know.
Ask your daughter. She'll know
Exactly
who it is. You just ask Abby who that is.
Yeah.
But listen, man, thanks for being on.
Absolutely.
Well, you're taking, as everybody listening can tell, we go way back.
Yeah.
But it was a good way back.
It was a good
and
way
we
back.
Thank you for going way back, because it allows us to relive that passion, which I think is coming across right now.
Yep.
I would hope so.
So you get to hear what we do every time when we get ready to go here, and that's fire up the closing music. That's right.
AMF, guys.
Listen, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Again, so.